These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Certainly a component of it. Again, we're always trying to solve this riddle that we have. We're trying to fill the best team with the constraints, with the salary cap being one of them. We like the value of the contract. We also like the player. I want to make sure that that's clear. We like the player, the skill set, what he provides this offense, how he allows us to play, and hopefully on the field this year and next. And then also, the fit within the locker room, that component of it is very important. We do a lot of digging into his college background. We talk a lot of people in Detroit, and they say nothing but great things about the player and how he'll fit into here.
I'm still trying to wrap my head. That was Kwesi, by the way, for the audio audience. And this is Feedback Friday on Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment, therapy, speculation. And we have a big life moment on the show from last night that we will take a comment or two about later here. But why would the Lions do this? Isn't that weird? I was doing an interview this morning with a Washington radio host, Kevin Sheehan, just about the game this weekend, and he said, "Does it worry you that they traded a 25-year-old? Like, why would they do that?" And I said, it worried me when the Eagles traded Rager because that's a smart organization that knows that he's not very good. The Lions traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams, and you won a Super Bowl 10 minutes later. So I don't give the Lions credit, but it is weird. Why would they do this?
So I went and read the stories about the Hockenson trade from the Detroit papers because, I was really confused because, this is a good young player, unless he's a terrible guy, which I don't think he is at all.
Kwesi referenced locker room presence and stuff.
Here's what I think's going on in Detroit. Shockingly, it's going to be dysfunctional. Brad Holmes is the GM who I believe worked with the Rams and O'Connell previously. Mm-hmm. He did not hire Dan Campbell. They were hired around the exact same time, but I believe the team president has final say. Now, Holmes probably has final 53-man roster construction say, and Holmes made it very clear I would have made this trade at 6-1 because I wanted more assets, right? I wonder if Holmes is purposely trying to be, because, their year's done. I wonder if he is trying to not only accrue assets, but the more games that Dan the Man drops, the more likely it is that they would move on from him, and that would give Holmes more power in hiring the next coach.
So on the assets front,
that's
so he
really
said
deep, by the way.
He said he wants to acquire more assets, right?
Yeah, he said at 6-1, I make this trade.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I agree.
You don't trade a good pass catching tight end at 6-1. But did they even come out on the winning side of the assets that they acquired? So let's first of all, they gave up a 25-year-old, 2 years left on a very reasonable contract.
Yep.
A 25-year-old tight end that you could also extend if you wanted to. The Vikings probably will. And then you wind up, in terms of draft capital, you trade what are likely going to be, because they are Detroit Lions draft picks, right? 2 high 4th-round picks for a low, because they're Vikings draft picks, low 2nd and low 3rd-round picks, right? So the gap in the draft capital isn't that wide. It's not a 1st-round pick or anything. And then on top of it, the Vikings get the biggest asset of all, which is TJ Hockenson. So from that perspective, it seems like the Vikings came out way ahead too.
I'm just telling you what his justification publicly. Now, I will say this, and I don't think this has been reported locally, but it was in Detroit. The the conditional 4th-round pick is a 5th-round pick if the Vikings win a playoff game this year.
Okay.
So they basically said, if this guy helps you win a playoff game, we drop that pick. Which, again, is not a huge deal. And, the Vikings would certainly take that in a second. Mm-hmm. But that was his rationale. I just wonder if the GM is like, this is all about the future. And Dan Campbell's not my guy.
Could be.
There was also a thing on Vikings Reddit floating around. There's an option when you play Madden, like if you're making a trade, that there's a GM mode on. So you can't just make any trade for anyone. It won't let you, right? So you can't fleece a team. And someone put in the trade parameters for TJ Hockenson, the same one. And Madden says, you're not allowed to do this trade.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
It is weird, man. It is. Some people were speculating, did the Vikings, because it kind of felt like maybe the Lions got one over on the Vikings with the draft trade. Was there some sort of agreement or something that the Lions were going to kick back Hockenson later. I don't know. But the first comment here is from Bad Dad Joke. It's a hot take. Kwesi is the best GM in the NFC North right now. I would like to point out that the Packers GM, Brian Gutekunst, is paying $11 million for Zadarius Smith to lead the league in sacks for the Vikings while replacing Devontae Adams with a rookie who runs the wrong routes and another one that's either injured or drops the ball. Emir Smith-Marset cost the Bears a game against the Vikings, while Ryan Poles turned all-pro Roquan Smith and a fifth-round pick into Chase Claypool for a year. Detroit just traded us their best offensive player for the equivalent of a third-round pick in value, and their rookie wideout won't be ready until sometime after we clinch the division. I mean, the Gutekunst thing, dude, like the Jordan Love pick, and then Devontae Adams with no plan B, apparently not being in the mix for OBJ or making any trade at all this year to salvage maybe the last year of Aaron Rodgers. It's all very odd what's happening there. So, yeah, I mean, right now, maybe Kwesi is the best GM in the NFC North.
He's definitely the best right now. Jury's out, in my opinion, on Poles because, like, he is blowing that thing up and doing some weird things, but it could work. Detroit is Detroit until I see just a significant change, which has not really taken place in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm going to turn 53 this month. Okay, Detroit, I'm out on. I told you guys before, the Gutekunst thing to me is very intriguing because I think the president of the team, Mark Murphy, who played professionally, I wonder if he's not the puppeteer here. Gutekunst strikes me as a patsy. He looks like a patsy. He strikes me as a patsy. I think Murphy is pulling a lot of the strings. I don't think that Brian Gutekunst solely said, I'm going to draft Aaron's replacement. I think Murphy said, let's do this, and I've scouted this guy, and there's nothing more dangerous than a team president who has scouted guys. That's my guess.
Yeah, just calm down, team president.
But Kwesi, I mean, yes, the Vikings are doing a very good job.
Now the jury is very mumuch out on the draft, and we're going to need at least a couple years in Lewis seen with the injury. So
yes,
it's there. I wish there was like a website or something. And maybe we can just maybe this is a business idea for us that had some sort of comparison of draft batting averages, quantify like the hits, the misses, the home runs, the complete busts.
Sounds like a film
for all the GMs, like free agent value and signings. Where are you spending your money at? Are you overloading on linebacker salaries versus other premium positions?
Macadac.com. You sit down today, you do this. All 32 teams. I
will. I'll take a couple hours this afternoon and just launch this. It'll be
great. The one thing, because we do get tweets, and I get them completely. The one thing I get about the folks who say, you guys are getting so excited, the Vikings aren't that good, blah, blah, blah. I think the Vikings at 6-1, it's great. I will say this is the cautionary thing, though. At about this time or a year in, Falvey and Rocco, their first or in the first year that they were joined, I thought were great. So like, yes, the jury is out. I don't know. All I'm saying is, given the data and what we've seen to date, it's very hard to criticize.
Yeah, and I mean, even like in fairness to Falvey and Levine and Rocco Belli and the Twins, all sports leadership has an expiration date. Bill Belichick has an expiration date. Some leaders, coaches, and in front offices are able to sit in your refrigerator for 20 years and not expire. Others are more like, some expire right away, like David Kahn, that weird Wolves general manager from 12 years ago. And so in fairness to Falvey and Levine and Rocco, it's been really bad the last 2 years. But they were actually very good, and what they built with that home run hitting team in 2019 was very good, and they built something for 2 or 3 years. But it doesn't mean that you're not susceptible to future whiffs and mistakes, and or losing touch with the direction the game is going, wherever it is. Corey Larson says, "Hey Mackey, do you think the Packers could fire Gutekunst and then hire Rick Spielman?" Oh man!
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Would you, as a Vikings fan, how do you think Vikings fans should feel if the Packers said we're going to hire Rick Spielman to be the GM?
One reason I give it 2 thumbs up. Quarterbacks.
They're not finding Aaron's replacement.
Yeah, exactly right. They're gonna for the entirety of Rick's tenure in Green Bay, they would scuffle to find a quarterback.
Yeah.
And you know what? There is no Vikings fan who would be like, it's really a shame the Packers, after 30 years, can't find the replacement for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I think Rick deserves another shot. I think he was a very good roster builder. The glaring error of quarterback is definitely something that you can't overlook, but maybe he can find a right-hand man that knows quarterbacks better or something.
I think he'll work again.
Yeah.
He gets at least one more shot.
Let's see here. Tim Trail says it's certainly shaping up for the Eagles to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Am I wrong for thinking the only way the Vikings can advance is to hope whoever goes to Philadelphia somehow beats them in the playoffs? And with the Vikings hopefully getting the 2 seed, they can host the remaining playoff games? I just can't see us beating the Eagles in Philly. Would love to hear your take on this. I actually agree with this. I think it's a long shot, unless the Eagles devolve as a team here in the next 2 months. Playing home games throughout the playoffs, that's why getting the 2 seed is so important, so that you have a chance to play a bunch of home games in the playoffs. But yeah, like ideally you would not have to go to Philadelphia again. We've seen that play out a couple times over the years.
I think people kind of forget, because there's not the 2 buys anymore, that the 2 seed, you still get to host a divisional round if you obviously get out the wild card. So I think like there's this misconception, then we have to go on the road. No, if you win your game, you get another home playoff game. Realistic Randy was talking that he wants to go back to Philadelphia. He wants the revenge, not just from week 2, but wants the revenge from the NFC Championship.
No, he just wants
game
to go to
from
the game because he lives out
Yeah,
there.
because he lives in Philadelphia.
Also,
This is the most
that was going to be my third part.
Realistic.
He also now lives there, so he also wants to go see the game. But I'm actually kind of with them too. Like, sometimes things aren't going to always work out where you're like, I want all the home games. Of course, it'd be great if Vikings got the 1 seed, but I think the sweet revenge could be awesome in Philadelphia as well.
It would be fun, but it would just be less likely that you would go to the Super Bowl if you had to go through Philadelphia. But Philadelphia is also not, I don't look at them as this like dominant force that can't be beat. I mean, they were in a struggle against the Texans last night for a while. So, and the Vikings, quite frankly, should have come back and made that a game if they hadn't thrown dumb interceptions, and not all Kirk's fault. There was a bad route by Justin Jefferson, and then Irv Smith dropped a touchdown reception. So the Vikings actually were in that game more than the score indicated in week 2.
I think if they can get, I think Philadelphia could get upset in their first playoff game. That doesn't mean that the Vikings would have any type of pass to the Super Bowl, but, Philadelphia looks good, but we have seen teams that look better than this get upset previously before.
Yeah.
So I would say that I would definitely not be shocked if Philadelphia lost its first playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts doesn't have like a track record of being in the league for 10 years and making deep playoff runs and stuff. So Kevin Stoll says, every time I think or see the Vikings and trade in the same sentence, I have night terrors about the Herschel Walker debacle trade. Yes, the one that made Dallas relevant for the next decade. P.S. Bye week was a rough go waiting for Sunday's game. I had the knot in my gut. We talked about that, just like waiting for games. I don't think, like, the Herschel Walker trade, we actually did a deep dive on this for Minnesota Sports Rewind about 3 years ago. Yes, it made the Cowboys great, but it didn't derail the Vikings. It's not like the Vikings went into some tailspin for a decade. The Vikings made the playoffs a lot after the Herschel Walker trade, and then eventually became a 15-1 team like 5 years after he left. So don't be afraid of trades, folks. Don't be afraid that these picks are going to come back and help the Lions and whatever. Like, go get good players.
The one comparison between the Walker trade and the Hockenson trade is deadline deals. That's the only comparison.
Yeah,
they were both
there wasn't like a
at
boatload
the
of
deadline.
picks or anything like that.
No, this is a good. If it doesn't work out, it's a good trade. It's worth a shot. So yes, it's not going to be Mike Lynn not realizing that Dallas was going to cut every player they got from the Vikings and keep all the draft picks.
Yes. This next one, presented by our friends over at Federated. Federated's been a great partner for us as we look to build Score North, Mackey and Judd, Purple Daily, our business. If you're a business owner and you're looking for just a great guiding hand with 100+ years of experience, they're based in Owatonna. They are one of us. Federatedinsurance.com to find out more information and to just read about the great history of this company. At Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Christian Peterson says, it's remarkable to me how different the Vikings look and feel compared to last year, despite the fact that there's been very little change among the team's composition. Obviously, Za'Darius has been a huge help, but it seems like the only other explanation is coaching. Is KOC a complete genius, or was Mike Zimmer such a detriment to this team that any competent coach could have taken over this group and led them to be a success? I know you all have shied away from the, Zimmer was the only problem narrative, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult to find another explanation.
So this is this goes deeper than two people for sure. Way deeper. First of all, this team, it makes a difference when human beings are happy. Clearing out Spielman as well and Mike. Let's forget about football for a second. So forget about X's and O's. Forget about, oh man, football. Just think about people, workplace environment. The workplace environment there for now, and Phil, to circle back to your point, there are expiration dates here. So this is not in perpetuity. But for right now, starting with day one of the off-season camps, the environment in that building changed completely. O'Connell is wound tight. He's a football coach, but he is much more apt to know how to deal with human beings. By last year, and this is the thing, so not early in Mike's tenure, because like that whole thing of being the tough guy after Les left was important. But by last year, Mike was miserable. Rick had gotten him the wrong QB. And so now it's basically like a puzzle. And by 2021, you had all these pieces and almost none of them fit. O'Connell and Kwesi are smart enough and invigorated because they're new at this to get the pieces to fit. I mean, look no farther than Kirk Cousins' transformation in what he shows us. Kirk Cousins shows us a lot about himself now. So this isn't just like, it's not as simple as like, well, Mike was like this and Kevin's like this. It gets into the timing of things, where people are at in their lives, and then it trickles down. But if you start out miserable, just as people, you're not probably going to experience success in your job in any walk of life, including being a football player.
Yep. I think my issue with this is a very gray area, nuanced discussion about Mike Zimmer. My issue with the way that he was sort of treated wasn't that he didn't deserve to be let go. He did. His expiration date as Vikings coach had long surpassed. You could probably argue it might have been a year or two earlier that they could have made a change. So I don't disagree with the change. I think what bothers me is that, first of all, he was great for the first 4 or 5 years and put up road flares and warning signs saying, hey, don't upset what we've built by bringing in the wrong guy at the wrong price at quarterback. He was essentially telling the organization, Kirk might work in certain areas. He doesn't work for me and what I am trying to build here. He flat out, without saying Kirk's name, said that at a press conference at the Combine. And the team decided, well, tough. You're going to have to deal with it. You're the coach. And it's like, really? I just built this thing for 4 years, and I'm telling you, I don't think this is the guy at that price. I think this is going to ruin things and get me fired. And it did. Now, some of that's on him for just not finding a way to be a professional and build a relationship and deal with it. But also, it's like the organization put him in a spot that he didn't want to be in, and he warned them about it. So, I don't hammer him as much for that. I think that's more of an organizational problem. As far as other things that have nothing really to do with Zimmer or very little to do with Zimmer that are better this season, well, Za'Darius Smith is just your best defensive player. He wasn't on the team the last couple of years. Danielle Hunter may not be the old version, but he's been healthy and on the field for half the season. He missed 75% of the games in 2020 and 2021. So, I mean, those guys on the field, Zimmer didn't have that. Those Zimmer defenses were pretty damn good with Danielle Hunter on the field. Christian Darrisaw, kind of naturally evolving. I think he would have naturally evolved into a great left tackle with or without, like, Kevin O'Connell. I'm sure this coaching staff is doing a better job of developing him than the defensive-minded Mike Zimmer and company, but he was a blue-chip prospect, first-round pick that was going to be good in year 2. So now you have a franchise left tackle. So it's more complicated than just like Zimmer was the problem. There's a lot of things sort of intertwined here but KOC has done a great job with Kirk. Done a great job, offensive play calling, scheme, play design, culture, all those things. So he is a better fit by far than Mike Zimmer. Yes.
The Vikings are flat out, and just for the sake of wins and losses in a league where games are incredibly tight, the Vikings are flat out, I will say this with complete confidence, a better game day coach team now. There's no question about it.
I also don't think it's anyone that could just step in and make things better that wasn't Mike Zimmer. I mean, look at Nathaniel Hackett. Look like what's going to be a great hire in Denver, right? And even how he was being talked about in Green Bay, it's like, oh, this will be great for Denver. He's not capable of being a head coach. He might be a great coordinator. He might be a great football mind, but that dude is not a good head coach. And the Vikings dodged a bullet. And now Denver's dealing with probably a humongous problem on their hands.
Yeah. Boy. That's because you don't, sometimes you don't know. You talk to these, even you get a guy in the room for 10 hours in a job interview, you don't really know how he's going to react when the clock's ticking down and you have to make a decision in the middle of football crisis and whatever. Viking Shrek here on Twitter says, "Can't believe Declan gave the lady a ring before the Vikings gave us a ring." Wow, Declan
She'd be like 70 by the time they get engaged if he waits too long.
Yeah,
also, Go ahead.
I was gonna say, instead of waiting for a ring, I just went and bought one. I was like, all right, I'm not. But one of these teams aren't gonna give me a damn pleasure of winning a championship. I'll just go, spend XYZ and get a ring for it.
So did you guys how nervous were you that because I think a lot of the pressure for guys is you don't want to get the wrong ring, right? You don't want to put something on her finger and she's like, oh, what is that? You just ruined this moment. So what was your level of concern there that you were going to screw up the ring?
No concern there. So my loving girlfriend gave me a plenty of what she would want in a ring
the playbook.
in our relationship.
That's
a playbook, literally.
That's good.
But I will say, just because you have all of that information, and that was very good information to have to go into the jewelry store knowing like she wants this. I also took her mom, so that also helped to have the tag.
Oh, then you can blame her if things go awry.
Exactly, even better.
Your mom picked this
but
ring on. It wasn't me.
Just because you have the info. And now you kind of think you're an expert, then you get schooled by the jeweler thing and like, okay, so like you've done your research, good for you. Now let me show you the diff, like what you think, what you want in this diamond. Can you notice the difference between 1 and 3? And then I was like, no, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Zero clue. But the women know.
It would be like if on the other side, if that jeweler came to me and saying, I've been studying podcasting and I know what to do. It's like, well, okay,
I've got some all 22 film.
Wow, exactly.
You should have thrown that back.
No.
Well, you don't know anything about podcasts.
Experience. I had a wonderful experience there, but that part was very easy actually, and thankfully the mom was there as well. Actually, so when I put in the order for the ring itself, the setting wasn't in stock, so they had to like order the setting. The diamond was in stock, the setting was not in stock that we liked. So they gave me initially like a fake ring. It was the real diamond, just in a different setting. And they're like, use this because I don't know if it's going to be in time when I was going to do the proposal. And then we would have to go out and like swap it out, and which would have been fine. But then at the last minute, like on Tuesday of this week, she called me and said, "Hey, the ring came in. Do you want to swap it out?"
That's
before?
a game changer. I was wondering because you kind of told us about this. That like, are you going to have to then explain? Oh, so I need that ring back because it's only like half of it.
Take this Cracker Jack.
This is
ring.
plastic. Actually,
we'll exchange this back, and we got it at the bottom of a Count Chocula box.
Yeah.
We'll bring that back. We'll give you the real ring.
This is from a 3D printer. We need to take it back in.
I know you guys will also like this. So instead, the classic engagement ring box, is huge, right? Like it typically is. But these ones now, like they come very small. It's actually really, really nice. So it can like fit in your pocket. There's not this big bulge that's in your pocket, right? And then one of my best friends
how'd you hide it?
I put it in because she said you can't put it in your pants because you always wear tight jeans, Declan. She'll be able to figure out there's
the
a box
skinny
in there.
jeans come back.
And I was like, all right, thank you, Mary. That's really nice of you. So what I did was I put it. Well, number one, I hid it in my apartment in my microphone box because I knew she would never look in there. So I hid it in there. And then as we were getting ready and she was in the shower, I grabbed it and I put it in like my coat pocket. So then it was just there. So like then it's not showing and bulging in my tight jeans.
If it was like, because it wasn't like 75 degrees a couple days ago?
Yesterday, yeah, it was, yeah.
What would you have done if it was like 80 degrees? How would you have hid the ring?
That's a good question, Phil. No, I did not. I just assumed that.
Why are you wearing a winter coat? Don't worry about it. Just go to dinner, meet some friends.
Oh my God! But yes, no, that part worked out very, very well. The ring shopping was great. Luckily, I had a lot of good notes, so that part That part was good, and I highly recommend that too. Like, don't go in what you think she would like. Get some notes. It's okay to ask for your significant other, what would you want?
So, like, how did you broach the question at the time to like try and distance it from the, it's going to be a long time, but tell me what you like in a ring?
Well, she just gave me this information with kind of unsolicited, like months ago.
She's a keeper. She's a keeper.
Yeah, no,
I love that. That
she
means the rest of your life's going to be,
we're going to get married. We're going to do this.
Well,
you're not competent enough to figure out
that's
what
what
ring
I was
to
going to
get
say.
me.
Fundamentally, she said, I don't trust you, not to screw it up, which is a great start because it means she's going to take care of things.
And
She'll
it's
probably
the same
pay all the bills. It'll be great.
It's the same thing with, I do have a sugar.
Dawn
mom, but
pays
that
all
part
our
is-
bills.
Yeah, that's great. That part's great. I mean, she's marrying
let her take care of
podcasting
you.
money here, okay? So like,
Let her take care of you. No,
someone
I'm saying
else-
she'll sit
someone
down with
else
the
is carrying
bills.
the load in this
She'll set up
relationship
the payments.
financially.
She'll do all of that. You're off the hook because she thinks that you can't do it, which is probably true.
That's true. I was
That's
gonna
my
say,
problem. I can't do any of that. No
I was
idea.
gonna say that for Christmas, like I might get it. I want a new driver for Christmas, my golf bag. But I was like, she has no idea about golf. So I said, well, just consult with my best friend who I golf with and also works at a golf shop. Just go do that. Then that way you know what you're doing. You're not like flying blind.
Just go with her, dude.
You could get a gift certificate. What if she got you a gift certificate? It's less personal. And I was thinking, what if men just got the women, instead of a ring, you get down on one knee and you open the box and it's like a gift certificate to a jewelry store. And then you can just go pick out whatever you want.
Dawn hates gift cards. I love them. I think they're the greatest thing. Cash and gift cards. You know what though, Dex? I would say this. Last night was great, and I mean, you surprised her. It's great. It's magical. I would say from now on, surprises, unless they're just really great.
Oh, she hates them.
Okay, for you,
Hate surprises.
a driver, just go shopping with her and pick it out.
Yeah, that could work too.
Just go shop. But I mean, Christmas, surprise. I don't want a surprise. Yeah. I want control of the gift I'm going to get. I'm not 5. Mommy, I want a hockey stick. It's a little bit different than that.
Yeah, and then if she gets you the wrong driver and you take it out and all of a sudden like you got a case of the slices and you can't cure it.
Or your face drops.
But you what?
Your face drops, so you take the driver out, you don't like it, and she can tell you don't like it, and then she's like, what's wrong? And then she gets offended. You don't like the driver. You got to go get a new one. Just cut it all out.
I also have a horrible habit of and I've done this before with gifts. If it's something I don't like, I can't hide it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I'm really bad. I'm really bad at that. I've
and
done
the
that
gal
before with
takes
gifts.
that personally. Dawn and I had this problem in the 90s. One Christmas, we both hated our gifts to each other, and we're both like, this is no good. Created a bit of a problem. From then on, no surprises. We did.
Yeah, let's just go. Let's go get a couple drinks and make a shopping day day out of it, and you're good to go. Anyhow, so there is. Congratulations to Declan. We did a breakdown of the mechanics of this on Purple Daily. If you want to know kind of what happened and
I'll wave the flag one more time for you.
How nervous Declan was. Yeah,
Here
wave the flag for Dex.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Here, I got the Wolves flag too, since they can't win. I'll wave it for Declan.
Amazing. Okay.